People with autism are often bullied physically, but there's another form of bullying that even adults are subjected to, and that is verbal bullying and consequently emotional abuse. Now, I've made a list of maybe 9 things, and I may think of another while I'm talking, of 9 things that Aspies and people with Asperger syndrome often face as a result of people bullying them verbally. I mean, things that people often say to us, things that I've heard people say to me or maybe to somebody else. And I want to go through these bullying tactics, we can call it that, or bullying techniques, as soon as I get my shirt buttoned. And you tell me, have you ever encountered some of these, or maybe something that's not even on the list? You can let the rest of us know in the comment section. You know, we're all in this together. We got each other's back, right? Or at least we should. All right, number 1 that I came up with is this. And there's several different iterations of this, but they may say something to the effect that no one likes you. Now, they may say that overtly, or they may say it covertly. They may say it explicitly, or they may say it implicitly. And in other words, they don't even actually say it, but they let you know that you're an outsider. Nobody likes you. You get over there. We're going to go our way. You go your way. Leave us alone. But the message is communicated either verbally or through some form of nonverbal communication. Nobody likes you. Now, an iteration of this is nobody believes you, or nobody's going to believe you. So it could be that you've been subjected rather to bullying, and the person who is doing the bullying may say, go ahead and tell people if you want, but no one's going to believe you because everybody likes me, and this is kind of a narcissistic approach to this. But then again, we're surrounded by a lot of people who may not be full-blown narcissists, but they have very selfish, self-centered tendencies or narcissistic tendencies. So their way of putting you down is to let you know that you have no credibility because you have no social standing. Because on that social hierarchy that is so innate to people who are neurotypical, you're nowhere, what do you call it, at a mountain? This thing that climb it, you're nowhere on it. You're not even on the mountain. So they're letting you know no one's going to believe you because you're not part of the group. You're an outsider. You're an outcast. And another iteration of this is they may say something, and again, it may not be verbal. It may just be the way they treat you. But they will communicate the thought that you will never amount to anything. Well, that can be very painful. It can be very hurtful, particularly if you have a problem to begin with, self-esteem, which many Aspies do, which is why many Aspies have a problem with depression. But the fact of the matter is, it hurts when people say those things, but I would say, you're kind of too late. By virtue of the fact that you exist, I mean, every single person on the planet, then you and I know exceptions. We all have value. We have a lot of value. Now, that doesn't mean that we're better than everyone else because everyone has value. So when somebody says you will never amount to anything, you already do amount to something. Now, you may not be a billionaire, but what? Do you have to be a billionaire to amount to something? I mean, do you have to have the best car to amount to something? Do you have to have the best personality? Well, in some people's way of thinking, yeah, that's exactly true. Number 2 is this is one that I find particularly frustrating, but I hear it all the time. A lot of people use this. And that is they will say something to the effect of, I'm just applying tough love here. I'm not sure I know what that means. I know sometimes you got to be tough because you love people, but a lot of times it's tough love without the love. We're just using love as an excuse to be jerks. And I say we because it's not just people who do this against others with Asperger syndrome or autism. It seems like everybody does this now and again to somebody. We're just applying tough love. Well, maybe again, but more likely they're just being jerks, just a way of building their own ego, inflating their own ego. Number 3, I've heard this a few times, you are just too sensitive. And of course, the flip side of that is they'll say that you are not sensitive enough. People with Asperger syndrome, with autism, we tend to have, that poker face. We just don't express ourselves like other people do, that flat effect, as it's called. And so some people will say, you don't seem to have any emotions. You are not sensitive at all. You don't care. You don't cry at funerals, or maybe you didn't cheer when the ball team won, so apparently you don't like us. You didn't express yourself the way that we express ourselves, therefore you're not on our side, whatever that means. Or, again, the flip side is they'll say you're too sensitive, because when somebody hurts you or attacks you, the correct thing to do is defend yourself. And when you defend yourself, whoever it is that's attacking you, well, they can't admit to attacking you, right? Because that makes them the bad guy. So they'll say, you're a softie, or you're just too sensitive, or why don't you toughen up, or why don't you put on your big boy pants or big girl pants, or whatever type of pants you happen to wear. But all of this is just, it's just fluff. It's bluff and bluster to hide the individual's own lack of sensitivity. Or maybe he or she is oversensitive, and to compensate for knowing she is oversensitive or he is oversensitive, they accuse you of being undersensitive. See, it's not that I'm a loudmouth, it's that you're too quiet. That's the way they approach this thing. Another way they bully us is they will say, not in these words, obviously, but they'll say something to the effect that just by default, and they never use this word, but they'll implicitly say, just by default, I'm right by virtue of the fact that, well, I'm me. Everybody on the planet thinks they're right. Right? I mean, if I thought I was wrong, I'd change my mind, and then I would think I was right. Everyone does that. Everybody on the planet. I can think of absolutely positively no exception. All right, you take somebody who has, say they held up a convenience store. All right, now, do they know it's wrong to do that? Yes, but at the moment when they did it, it seemed to be the right thing to do, in spite of the fact that they knew that it was wrong. So they thought they were right to hold up a store, even though they knew it was wrong. I'm not sure if I'm getting that thought across or not. But everyone thinks they are right by default. But these people, they just kind of wear it on their sleeves. I mean, anytime they approach anybody, but particularly those they deem to be vulnerable and naive, like people with Asperger syndrome, like people with autism, they just double down on it. And because, well, they see you as a pushover. So this is one person that they can say, I'm right, you're wrong. They don't have any evidence, usually. And if they do try to justify themselves, which typically these people don't even bother because they're right, no evidence needed. It's by virtue of the fact that they are, and that's all the evidence that's required. But so they usually don't provide anything to back that up. Sometimes they do. But I call that just being right by default. That is a way that we are bullied. Number 5 is this. Something kind of similar, but it's they will say that you, my friend, are responsible. They probably won't call you friend, but they'll say, you, my friend, are responsible for my flaws. If I did something wrong, it's because you didn't do something. If they slip and fall, it's because you didn't clean the ice up or something. Somehow it's got to be your problem. I knew somebody who had this problem where they would slip and fall, trip and fall, and then they would sue whoever happened to own the property or they deemed responsible for that property. So I knew somebody who slipped and fell. I think it was in Florida, and they threatened a lawsuit. So the store owner, I think they fell outside the store. I don't have my story absolutely straight on this. But they threatened to sue the store owner, so the store owner settled, and just to avoid having to go to court and all that mess. So later they tried it again, but this time it was at a major shopping center. Well, that's a mistake, because this is a major company, and these people have either attorneys on what do they call it, retainer, or they have them employed. A lot of these people have their own legal departments. And so this person was, and I found this out because I just happened to be, I was searching my name on the state's website, where you, public records. And I just happened to see what this person had done in the past, and so apparently she had sued them because she tripped over uh, what do you call those things? Drain, like a register would call it in the house. But what? I mean, yeah, there it's in the parking lot. Nobody trips over it. If you tripped over, it's probably because you're not paying attention to what you're doing. This time it didn't work because, well, the attorneys were able to get a summary judgment, which is a way of saying it kicked it. The judge just wouldn't hear it because it was so obvious that it was bogus. So this person wound up having to pay court costs and attorney fees. But the point is, it was the shopping center's fault because they had drainage things over. I'll think of what you call those things later. But they had drainage things in their parking lot. Well, every parking lot has those things, and maybe you ought to pay attention to what you're doing, particularly if you're older. Slow down a little bit. So you're responsible for my flaws. That's a bullying technique. And if you have Asperger syndrome or if you are autistic, I know you've encountered this. And if you can think of a time when that's happened to you, when someone has accused you of being responsible for their stupidity or whatever their mistakes, you might want to share. Don't be real specific. You don't have to name names, but share the incident in the comments. Number 6, and this is kind of another iteration of that, and this is to say if you hadn't, or if you hadn't said this, or if you hadn't done that, or if you had been here when you were supposed to be, or if you had said this or hadn't said that, then everything would have turned out much better. But typically, somehow, some way, it's always your fault. It's never the person's fault. We talked about that earlier. Somehow they always find a way to project on someone else. And again, because you're an Aspie, because you have autism, you're a soft target from their perspective. So, and just blame the Aspie. Just blame this guy. He won't fight back. That in and of itself should tell you that the bully, he's got a problem. She's got a problem. Number 7 is sometimes you hear people say that you've got to earn respect. I heard somebody else talk about this earlier today. Earn respect. Okay, yeah, I could see that. We need to earn respect from other people, but what about the guy who was saying it? Does he need to earn my respect? Well, no, of course not. You need to earn his respect, right? Now, when you're a younger person, particularly young men, they hear this a lot from older men that, you're a young whippersnapper. And I don't think anybody says the word whippersnapper, but they try to pull rank based on age. I'm older and wiser by virtue of the fact that I'm older. And when I was a young man, like a teenager, early 20s, and guys would say that or something like it, I'd say, so you think Fidel Castro is wiser because he's older than me or older than you, come to think of it? No, it just applies to them. It doesn't apply to anyone else. It's just between me and you, because in that situation, it's because I am older and you are younger. Or something else. And it doesn't have to be an age disparity. It could be just about anything. But they have this attitude that if you expect me to respect you, then I expect you to prove it. Prove to me, and this is just a technique of controlling people, of dominating people, and the response to that. And a lot of times the best response is no response, but the response to that is, talk about somebody who is older still, or better yet, to say, okay, I just lost your respect. Now you're going to have to earn it. If you want me to respect you, you're going to have to respect me. What's wrong with that? Why can't we just respect each other, right? I think that's a good idea. Let's do it that way. They're not going to be happy with it, but, who cares? They don't respect you anyhow, and they never will. When someone tells you you have to earn their respect, they never will respect you. It's just a way of manipulating you. Number 8 is they'll say something to the effect that I'll let people know what you are really about. What is that? They're threatening you with telling people the truth. I'm okay with that unless I did something bad, which I don't think I did. So, when people say that, it's a bullying technique, and geez, what does this person have on me? Well, if they've got something, why don't they come to you about it? I mean, if they care about you, why don't they say, you got this problem, let's talk about it. What these people don't seem to realize is one thing that all humans have in common is we're all humans and we all have flaws. So if they can expose you for something maybe you did or said that was dumb, usually they're exaggerating or elaborating or embellishing, I should say. You can do the same thing to them, but they don't think in those terms. That goes back to the fact that, people believe this bully because he is socially connected and you are not. So, you got to be careful because I'm going to tell people about you. I'm going to ruin you with the group. And a lot of times they do it. They go out of their way trying to destroy you with a group. And if you ever see somebody who's being bullied, one of the techniques that the bully will use is you go to the defense of the victim, and then what the bully will do is he'll say, or she'll say, I'll fix you, and she or he will befriend the victim. And to punish you, he or she will turn the victim against you. That's what happens when you don't let me bully people. We'll bully you instead. Number 9 is this. They will raise a question that begins with the sentence, with the question, or the statement rather. Let me ask you this. Got a question for you. What they're really doing is they are baiting you. And whatever question they ask, if this is the bullying technique, whatever question they ask, you can answer however you want. They're going to argue with your answer. A lot of people ask you questions. We talk about this in other videos. But people ask you questions so they can argue with you. Remember, I think we talked about this yesterday. A teenager comes home late and the parents say, do you know what time it is? Comes home after curfew and they know what time it is. They just want a confrontation, right? But other people say, do you know what time it is? Because they want to know what time it is. So there's 2 reasons to ask a question. One is for confrontation and the other is for information. So the bully will often ask you something, just wants to ask you a question, because whatever you respond is, they're going to argue with it, And you don't have to be an Aspie to, put up with this, or a person with autism. People want to argue religion or politics. They may begin by saying, like, they just want to have a conversation. Let me ask you this question. I just want to find out what you think about this. And it doesn't matter what you say, they're going to argue with you, And it's taken me about 70 years. Not quite 70 years, almost there. But it's taken me most of 70 years to figure this out. Because I keep, how stupid can I be? I keep falling for it over and over and over again. So I said, I just want to ask you a question, just have a little conversation here. And then they want to argue. Whatever you say, they're going to argue with it. Now, here's a principle that I've mentioned in the past that you got to be mindful of, and that is that